Do you know how to live a life that is free from fear? And if you had to give me an answer right now, would you be able to tell me that your happiness is greater than the amount of fear that you face in your life? Or has your fear taken over? Hi, my name is Evette Rose, author and founder of Metaphysical Anatomy, which is a book that helps you to guide you to understand the emotional body and also the hidden messages behind it. Now, talk about hidden messages. Let's dive straight into this topic for today, and welcome as well. I'm so excited. We're going to be talking about fear and how fear can bind us. Now, I invite you to stay with me during this video as well, because closer to the end, I will share with you details to a free online healing course and overcoming your fears. Now, fear is an experience that I can safely say that you have experienced in your life, even to this day. Now, fear is an experience and also a sensation that dominates your quality of life. And it also dominates how you make decisions. It dominates your happiness. Now, fear is our main drivers in life, and that is because we are hardwired to be more aware of fearful sensations and signals in our body than, for example, that we would be to positive ones. Now, a common fear that we all share is a fear of death, apart from public speaking. Now, in most cases, when you see a crocodile or a snake or a bear, for example, of course you are petrified of the reptiles and the predators. But if you look deep down in the underlying fear, it will be a fear of dying, as the reptiles and the predators and actions toward us can lead to our death. So in reality, what you have now here is a fear of dying, and the animal is only a step between you and mortality, and which now can of course lead to death. So it is normal to fear these animals, for example. It is also normal to fear something that is, for example, traumatic from the past. Now, anything that can, for example, lead to your death is instinctively avoided and feared. And this is also a healthy fear, right? Because it keeps you alive. Now, the body also uses fear to divert you from doing something that, for example, would be perceived as being threatening, whether it's due to a past experience or also inherited predispositions. Talking about this, I would also highly recommend that you watch my video Understanding the Root Causes of Fears, Part 1 and Part 2. I would highly recommend that. Now, fears can also escalate to the point, right? Coming back to fears. It can escalate to the point where you even fear feeling the fear. So now, you could divert your behavior in ways to avoid feeling the fear and not the actual fear itself. So you see what I mean? And it is also for this very reason why your fears don't heal. And the reason being also that you build coping mechanisms around your fears and that are fear avoidant behavior in order to cope with it, suppress it, numb it, and also escape from it. Now, fear is not always just a phantom fear. Fears can also have root causes that, for example, took place because of a traumatic event. Now, sometimes trauma can also take place early in your life, and you might not have conscious recollection of it in the here and now. But trust me, your subconscious mind does. It stores everything, absolutely everything. Now, just because you don't have conscious access to a traumatic event doesn't mean that it never happened. Now, just because you cannot consciously recall what is behind your fear doesn't mean that there is no possible truth for its cause. Because what is clear is the fact that you feel the fear. Now, the reason why you feel the fear could be because of a healthy, perhaps positive coping emotional response that you've had that's been deactivated by stress. Now, the deactivated emotional response, right, if it was active, meaning that it would have helped you to overcome the fear faster than what you would have without it. Now, fears in this case, they are also showing you your weaknesses, right? Fears are showing you which aspects and emotional resources need to be brought back into your life and into your mind and activated in your emotional body. Now, fear, as I said earlier, is not always a bad thing. It can also serve a positive purpose. It is when this fear becomes an obsession and your quality of life now starts to suffer, and your happiness and your relationships, including your relationship with yourself, starts to suffer as a result of it. Then it becomes to your detriment, right? Then it becomes an obsession and it turns into a toxic cycle. Now, when your full focus is on fear, then that is what becomes your reality. Because your RAS, your reticular activating system, will continuously scan your environment for threats and anything that can potentially lead to your death. Now, when this pattern of fear is repeated over and over again, you start to lose the conscious ability to rationalize yourself out of thinking that everything is not always a threat. Right? So over time, you hardwire your cognitive system to become fearful, and you exhaust other parts of the brain that would normally help you to observe your environment and to make logical judgment calls that would actually tell you clearly that you are indeed safe, and what you feel is just a fear. Now, it's through this repetitive thought process and your body also activating stress hormones in your mind that can build new neural pathways, also known as neurogenesis, that holds the new memories of fear that you energized. Now, even if the memory is based on fiction and not an actual reality. Now, over time, your rational thinking ability has now been overpowered by consistency of fears that you are continuously now playing out in your mind. And the reason why it played out so often, more so than often, right, is not just because of neurogenesis and neuroplasticity. It's also because you have started to believe that you are powerless to the fear. So you feel that you have completely lost your power and confidence to some aspect of your life. And this feeling of powerlessness has now rippled over into more areas of your life than what you previously felt powerless to. And this, of course, now directly impacts the way that you see and interpret your reality. Let's use an example. Let's say that you were in a car accident. Now, when the accident took place, it is a traumatic and shocking event, and you had no control over the situation, right? You had no control over what was going to happen next. And it is in that moment that you feel unsafe, powerless, helpless, and feel a complete sense of loss of control. Now, you are unable at that moment to access your inner emotional resources to emotionally and physically support you at that time, which then leaves you in the most unresourceful state of mind as everything happens so fast. Now, I know that you can relate even if you have never been in a car accident, right? Losing control of something or a situation is not always a good feeling. And it can be something as simple as feeling like you're falling, like we all trip, right? We've all had that walk of shame where we fell flat on our face on the floor. Now, no one likes, right? No one likes feeling out of control. And when you feel out of control, you automatically feel powerless, right? Feeling powerless means that you are not in control of a situation when you are not in control. It means that something or someone else has control now over you. And that triggers a state of fear of the unknown. Now, that's what happens next, feeling, right? We all know what that feels like. Now, this triggers a deep fear in the body, and that is a fear of dying. Because it is during this time of the accident or losing control of something that everything becomes a threat, because everything is now being questioned by the body. And as you also have no clear way of interpreting what happens next. And we are also biologically designed to think and expect the worst, right? To think negatively. Because with this mindset, your body is able to constantly prepare itself for the best possible resources that it can potentially tap into to keep you alive. So now by this point, the accident is over. Coming back to the example, the accident is now over. You are in shock and the body is left feeling completely powerless. And then in the future, this moment in memory becomes what I call a locked-in trauma. Now, this locked-in trauma will stay locked into the nervous system and the emotional body. And also new memories based on this trauma will be born and brought to life. Now, for those of you who know my book, Metaphysical Anatomy Volume 1, this is Volume 1, will know if you have that book and also the little sister of it, Volume 2, right? You will know how the body can store emotions and memories all over the body. It's not just held in your cognitive system, meaning in your mind. So as a result of the accident, you are left feeling stuck in a powerless state of mind. And this is the worst state of mind for the body, because the body then feels completely helpless towards its environment. And as a result, it can become suspicious and fearful of everything around it that triggers the feeling of powerlessness. So now here we have a car accident trauma, and it is normal to fear being in a car accident again, of course, after such an accident. Now it also depends whether you actually have successfully overcome the accident trauma or not, because that will greatly impact, right, your ability to overcome or to stay fear-based in your response to your environment. Now let's say that you were not able to overcome the emotional trauma and also the shock of the incident, which now means that your body now stays in a state of powerlessness. And now you can guess what happens next. When you are in a state of powerlessness and you feel this towards your environment, then almost everything will feel like a threat, right? Because the body is now fearing. It's in fear that it will not be able to overcome the challenge that it faces in the next moment of stress or a traumatic event. So everything becomes a potential threat, and you become more and more suspicious of your surroundings and even people and their intentions. And then you have fear. So even as interactions with people can now also trigger you, right, and make you feel powerless, which then triggers the memory perhaps of the car accident or anything else that was traumatic and extremely stressful that left you feeling powerless. Because with that feeling of powerlessness, what happens is that an old memory becomes activated and then now reinforces your current state of powerlessness, creating new fears based on your environment and what you are experiencing in that moment in time. Now, this is also a cycle that continuously plays out in your subconscious mind. And remember, what you energize in your life, what you will feel and see more of in your reality. Right? So when you think of a fear, whether it's real or not, your body will have a biochemical reaction to that thought as if though it's actually happening. And this then triggers all the memories and also stress responses that you felt in the past. Now, in most cases, you don't always have conscious awareness and accurate recollection of your past memories. However, the emotional body does, right? And it remembers and it reacts accordingly. So step 1, start breaking the cycle of toxic fears, right? Especially if there's an inherited fear. Give it a voice and find and understand at least the source of it. Step 2, is it real or is it not? Now, if it is real or if it's in the past, for example, now talk to your mind. Give yourself reassurance. Tell yourself, the threats are over. I am now safe. And feel the feeling of the wish fulfilled, meaning feeling safe. And then step 3, if you want to dive deep into your fears and start to heal that, then I invite you to go through my free online healing course, which is Healing Your Fears. And you can find that at www.healingyourfears.com. And also remember to check out my book, Metaphysical Anatomy, to find out even more about how trauma and fears are stored in the emotional body and the deeper hidden messages behind that. And guys, until next time, be the light that you are. Hi guys, thank you for joining me, and remember to grab your copy of Metaphysical Anatomy on Amazon, 679 medical ailments. And I also wrote about the psychosomatic root causes of that, and I'm spoiling you because I even added key points for you to start looking at important questions that you can ask yourself to start improving your quality of life. And also remember to catch me on Instagram, Evette Rose, 1 with the digit 1, and Metaphysical Anatomy on our Facebook fan page. Bye guys.